Hello, my name is Jeremy Hayer. I am a youth engagement coordinator with SPAN Parent Advocacy, and this is another episode of our Amplify Advocacy interview series here on YouTube. Today, I am joined by my friend Nick Carpenter, and Nick, I'm just going to have you introduce yourself before we get into the interview proper. So, up to you.
Okay. I'm Nick Carpenter. I am 26 years old, and I had an autism diagnosis at the age of 4, and I am currently in a career of self-advocacy and just I guess collaborated. I don't know the term. Self-advocacy, but also helping other people advocate for themselves.
Right, right, yeah, no, that makes sense. Are there any organizations or parent centers or groups that you're working with currently?
Uh, yes, currently I am employed at KY Spin, which is the government-funded PTI for the state of Kentucky. So we're the Parent Training and Information Center for Kentucky. And for those that don't know what a PTI is, we're basically we are a government-funded information center. We provide resources, trainings, peer supports, just about anything, except we're not lawyers. We don't represent people or advocate for people, but we give people, families and individuals with disabilities, we give them the tools and the empowerment to advocate for themselves.
Okay, awesome. In many ways, it sounds very similar to what we do with SPAN up here in New Jersey. So good to see someone similar to me. Um, so let's start off. So if you're comfortable, do you mind just telling us your story about how you became a self-advocate?
Yeah, it's pretty, it goes back a bit of ways. Like I said, I was diagnosed when I was 4. Um, and I was fortunate enough my mother was very supportive of me. Well, even before my diagnosis, but when I did get the diagnosis, she was very supportive and she was very adamant on me getting the supports and like the therapies and the educations and accommodations, all the stuff that I needed to be successful with autism. She made sure that I got all that stuff I needed. And she was she advocated for me before I could advocate for myself. And excuse me, she got me involved in a lot of like social stuff. Like I was in the Boy Scouts of America, basically, like from being a small youth all the way up to an adult. I was involved in that because she got me involved in it as a way to get me to socialize with people. And they do a lot of volunteer work and things like that. And it kind of got me. We used to do a lot of well, we still do, but we she kind of got me into doing like fundraisers and for autism um, and things like that. So advocacy has kind of just been part of my life since it really started. Um, but I would say that I think I really kind of got into it during high school. Was when I really started. Like, I realized I kind of came to the conclusion. I was like, this is something that I have been doing my whole life, but this is something that I can do, and I can like that I can like motivate myself, and I have a lot of experience and things like that, and I can use that to maybe help other people, if at least myself. Uh, so yeah, like I've been basically with family support. I've been doing it my whole life, but when I was in high school, I really started like um, kind of focusing in on it. I did my organized my first fundraiser in high school for to help support the special ed classrooms at my local school. And was kind of like I kind of realized that that was something that I liked doing. I wasn't sure if I was going to make a career out of it at the time,
Mm.
but I knew that I had the skills and the ability to make something out of it.
All right, wow. Okay, so yeah, you've really been involved in it for a very long time, it seems. And it seems like your mother has been a really influential person in your life
Hmm.
and in your journey to become a self-advocate. It's really cool to hear. Um, so what challenges did you encounter, in your journey to become a self-advocate? Were there any like obstacles or maybe any people perhaps that were, you know, a problem for you in becoming a self-advocate?
Um, not any particular people that really got in my way of doing it. I think a lot of it, because like I said previously, with like my mom helping out, she did a lot of the, at least starting off, she did a lot of the legwork for me because she knew that she had to advocate for me, like advocate for myself. She kind of did a lot of the legwork and figuring out like what worked and what didn't work, and then helped when I was older, helped train me to be able to advocate for myself. I'm trying to think of like particular examples because I had like I guess challenges like anyone. I think all of clearly different. They differ from person to person. But I had challenges just with my disability, just going through life. And like getting the support, especially in college, trying to get like the accommodations and supports I needed. Um, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this question.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
But yeah, like especially like I think I'm making sure I'm not about to answer like a future question actually. Okay. So I think that like it's a lot easier being an advocate now than it used to be taking on challenges because there's a lot more resources now than there used to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Something that I talk about frequently whenever I do. I go and I do panels. And I actually did a panel like the last couple days ago. I was like out of town doing some school panels. And in some video to do, I talk about how, being a youth, being like the age of 4, getting diagnosed in like in the early 2000s and growing up over the last 20 something years with a disability and how like the resources and supports have changed significantly over time, like the advancements that have been made, and how it's there's still difficulties and there's still challenges and
Hmm.
obstacles, but I confidently myself would say that it is easier to be an advocate now than it used to be, because of all the resources and information that's available.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I do think there are many more resources available, um, at least for our, like this generation
Mhm.
of young people, especially those who are looking to be advocates for themselves. And a lot of, and that's why we should always, try to, pay respect to those that came before us and those that, were the first people to, really, um, try and implement change both in their individual communities, but also across the country as a whole. Because really, without them, we wouldn't have the resources, we wouldn't have the laws, and we wouldn't have just the different um, ways that we've received assistance. None of that would be possible if those that came before us weren't willing to speak up. And that's something that I always try to keep in mind personally. You also
Mhm.
mentioned that you had maybe like some difficulty in college with accommodations. That is a story that I do hear a lot of times.
Mhm.
Is that usually K through 12 is, well, it really depends on the school district, unfortunately, but for the most part, it's roughly the same experience throughout. And then it's college where normally there's some issues. And of course, that's not saying colleges across the board are not accommodating by any means. I just think that for certain universities, sometimes, um, especially if if it's a more like old school kind of a college, they might be a little slower to catch up with everybody else, if that makes sense. Um,
I,
mhm,
I think
Go on.
that too it's because it's something that I've run into is and I don't even necessarily think it's the college's fault. I think because just when you become an adult, things
Yeah.
change, especially with like your IP and everything. Because when you're in school, like high school, middle school, etc., and you have an IP, like they're required to support you and make sure you get the
Yeah.
support you need. College is different, and what a lot of youth don't understand going into college is that stuff isn't taken care of for them anymore because they're adults now.
Mm,
They have to go and they have to seek those resources and they have to make those connections happen. They get those accommodations that they may have had in school. And a lot of them don't know that.
yeah.
So they start struggling like really bad and things aren't taken care of for them.
Yeah. That is true. And I think that's why it's really important, like for um for like high schoolers, like juniors and seniors specifically, um, that that's a mentioned part of going into college. And I think that's really true for everybody, not just those with disabilities. I think for like first year students, a lot of times there's a bit of a culture shock because you are responsible for everything. You're responsible for your food, for
Mhm.
dorms, for literally everything that was previously taken care of. And that can be a little bit intimidating
It's a
for
very
first time students.
it's a very drastic change that they, and it's not even the school's fault. Like it's a change that a lot of
Yeah.
people aren't prepared for, and it's one of those things that's like, how do you prepare for something like that? It's such a
Hmm.
drastic change in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Okay. I'm just gonna go to the next question. Can you share any personal accomplishments that you're proud of? Anything comes to mind there?
Well, I got a few.
We have time.
Let's
We have
see.
time.
I think looking back, looking at accomplishments, probably one of my biggest, earliest ones was I mentioned that I was participated in Boy Scouts. I got my Eagle Scout, which for those who don't know is an Eagle Scout is the highest rank that you can get in Boy Scouts, and it involves doing a lot of like community service and volunteer work, as well as some kind of community project to help your community.
Mhm.
Um, Mine was helping restore like an old there's a lot of Civil War history where I live in Kentucky, so my project was helping restore a the visitor center for a Civil War museum
Oh wow.
because it's kind of falling into disrepair. That was my project, um, but that was like kind of a big deal at the time. And then kind of coming after that, I was during high school. My senior year of high school, I was put into the Senior Hall of Fame, which was a new thing they actually added the year I graduated. So I was like the first or second member
Oh wow.
to be inducted into that. Um, as well as I'm a Kentucky Colonel, which is like it's a title given out by the governor of Kentucky for like exemplary service and contributing to the community and things like that. Uh, I got a lot of stuff. But like that was like the biggest recent one was getting appointed. That was a few years ago. Was getting appointed as Kentucky Colonel.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, and then of course now I am my job. I'm the youth educator for Kentucky's PTI. So that's something of an accomplishment in itself. I get to use my experiences to help youth that are leaving high school and going to adulthood. I get to help them kind of give them my own experiences and help them kind of navigate that life. So that's something of an accomplishment itself for me, at least.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm sure
Okay.
there's
So
other
yeah.
things I can't remember, but I'll leave it to those few for right now.
I mean that's already like quite a few, and they're quite impressive accomplishments. Let me just say. Um, I think I've heard of the Kentucky Colonels before. I want to say like I read about it in like an article somewhere, but I wasn't really sure what they were. Honestly, I thought they were a component of the Boy Scouts for a long time. So I'm glad that you were able to clear that up for me. Thank you for that.
You
Um, Next question. Why is the inclusion of individuals with disabilities important?
I was thinking, they're like, you mean like just kind of in general?
Yeah, really just whether it's in the classroom or at work, just really in society as a whole, because I think there is still a bit of a stigma
Hmm.
around those that have developmental and physical disabilities. So why do you think it's important to include these people in just regular
Because
life?
like um I guess the first part is how like I mean it is really important. It's
Hmm.
like there's a whole other pool of like perspectives to like draw from. Like even when like me like I've been pretty like involved in like the area of special needs for some time now. Like I was even a I didn't mention this earlier, but I was for a little while I'm also a licensed paraeducator, which I'm a special ed assistant. That's all that is. And I worked in special ed classrooms for a few years, so I've like kind of been around that for a while now, like working in that environment. Um, and there's just a lot of like different perspectives, like even like because like gosh, like it was like a month ago at this point when we all went to that conference, to that Yen conference,
Hmm.
getting to just maybe not necessarily meet them individually, but just seeing different people with their disabilities, some that I hadn't even heard of, I didn't even know existed,
Mhm.
and hearing them talk about their lives and like their experiences, and just becoming more aware of those perspectives and that they exist like that. And as my boss says whenever we do presentations, because there's a lot of discrimination that people face for any number of reasons. And something she always says is that a disability, I don't remember exactly how she phrases it, but she says like a disability is like the one disabilities don't discriminate
Yeah.
because anyone can get a disability at any moment.
Mhm.
Like and literally anything can happen, and now you're disabled for the rest of your life in some way.
Yeah.
Um, and it's also like from my experience, and you can like speak differently because I don't know what it's like in New Jersey, but I know in at least in Kentucky, it feels like that. We work with a lot of like the local state agencies. It seems like that minority of like disabilities is like overlooked a lot and kind of ignored.
Mm.
Um, because they'll be talking about like these other minorities and how the communities affect them and all this stuff, and then they never talk about disabilities or disabled people.
Yeah.
And it's such a, and like I said, it's such a, because anyone can be disabled, and it can happen at any point. So like it should be just treated just as equally as just any other kind of group that needs supports or needs to be talked about.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's, you know, we're all people.
Hmm.
And I think that's really the core message that's important to remember is that, um, like you said, anybody can become disabled at any point. Um, disabled people they're not a different kind of people. They are people. And, and also, like you said, they have differing perspectives. They also have maybe perspectives that you have never heard of before, but that actually might appeal to you. And that is something that's important to include in regular discussions, no matter where. So let's go on to the next question. Do you think it's important for others to share their experiences?
Hmm. Yeah, I do. Because like I mentioned, because so important for people to hear about those, to hear like what other people go through, because it opened up that perspective that they might not get otherwise. And I think like for me, like I talk about my experiences all the time, and I know that when I do that, and I talk, and when parents hear it, because I talk to a lot of parents who have like youth with autism. And I know when I talk to them about those experiences, it kind of helps them better, like I guess, process it or think about like maybe helps them kind of see that their situation isn't as bad as they may have thought it was. Um, and like it just helps just because like education is really important to me. So just like being able, the more people know, you just kind of just I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. The more people know, it's just kind of like it just helps community as a whole. The more aware people are of these things and what they do and how they affect these lives, it's just important.
Yeah, and it's going back into the valuing everyone's perspective kind of idea that we touched on before. Um, and to kind of to go a bit further with this, I know we're kind of going on a bit long, so I'll probably make this like the last one. But I guess like my next question would be, um, there's a lot of young people, teenagers, young adults, youth, whatever you want to call them, and they would like to share their stories, um, but sometimes they're feeling a bit intimidated. They're worried that they're going to be judged, or that maybe no one's going to take their story seriously or anything like that. What would you say to a young adult that wants to share their story, but is too afraid to speak out about it?
Well, I know like not that I wasn't necessarily like afraid of sharing my own story, but I know like what really kind of got me the kick, or maybe not kick, but like what kind of like got me to be interested in talking about my experiences was I attended a local autism group that was just
Mm,
parents and people there that have autism. like either parents of children with autism or just people with autism. And it was kind of like a support group. So y'all just, went around, they just talked about their experiences and if there was like any like laws or things like that that got passed around that was related to them and stuff like that. And that kind of helps me, going to that meeting kind of just helped me feel like, it made me feel better. Not that I felt bad about it, but it encouraged me to like, hey, like I could talk about like myself and the struggles that I've had to other people and help them like feel better about their own struggles.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's like the advice I would give is like see like if there's anything like that near you or see if there's any like support groups online or um see like or if there's like because I know like every state is supposed to have PTI, so like try reaching out to your parent training information center because a lot of them at least if they're like mine, their whole thing is empowering people to be able to talk better about themselves and want to talk about themselves. And that's what they're there for. That's what that resource is, and then they're free. They're free resources.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean that's some solid advice. I think people should really um, feel comfortable taking advantage of the resources and personnel that are there to help them because, like you said, um, they're there to make you more comfortable sharing your story. Kind of similar to how we're talking now. Um, I'm afraid to look at the clock. But before we wrap up for today, are there any projects that you're working on that maybe you want to plug? Any social media that you're on that you want to share out to everybody? Is there anything you want to just add in before we wrap up?
Me myself, like I don't have like a social media presence. Like I have social media, but I'm not like a presence on it.
Okay.
Kentucky Spin, they have a social media, and they're always uploading new resources when they get them. Um, their website, which is just kyspin.com, www.kyspin.com. They have like a newsletter that people sign up for, and we have a bunch of just all our resources and stuff around there. I've put up a lot of we call them youth talks, where I do like a video where I talk about a different topic and how it relates to me and like my disability and what I do to kind of like and what I've done to kind of deal with that topic, but and also offering advice like what you can do
Mm-hmm.
to be able to take care of that. When I think projects in the work, like we do like a monthly, me and one of my coworkers, we do like a monthly transition Tuesday where we upload them afterward. We do like a 40 minute long presentation of a different transition topic. Um, like we're doing one for like IEP, like understanding the IEP basics. We've done one on like managing money and stuff like that. Like we have like a lot of just transition age resources for youth that are again leaving high school and going to adulthood, and they might not have those skills otherwise.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. And after this, if you're comfortable, you can send me links, and I'll put in the description for YouTube. That's okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. I'll see.
Hmm?
I'll get with like my boss and kind of see what she recommends resources that I share for this.
Right. Yeah, it would probably be best to reach out
Yeah,
to the
because she
boss.
might have opinions on what they want shown. So
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Um, well, all right. Well, thank you, Nick, so much for your insight and for answering my multiple questions. And thank all of you for tuning in for another episode by Amplify Advocacy. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to our SPAN YouTube channel. All the resources that we talked about here and all of SPAN's own social media and their resources, they're all going to be included in the description. And I hope each and every one of you have enjoyed this and you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.